Good learning, I hope. It's one of the things that I wanted to actually study tonight. You're going to see the power that every Jew has, how strong we are. But let's go through the parasha first. Oops, sorry. This week's parasha is called Parasha Bamidbar. And actually, again, because the word simply starts that the Jews were in the desert, God spoke to the Jews in desert. But there's another book that the Midrash puts, besides the names that we know. Like the first Sefer is called Bereshit, because it says Bereshit bara Elokim. In the beginning, God created. Second book is called Shemot, because it says Ele Shemot. These are the names of the Jews. Third book is called Vayikra, because it starts God called Vayikra Moshe, and this is called Bamidbar. The last one is called Dvarim, but they have a different name each one. The first one actually is called Bereshit because Genesis means the beginning. Second book is called Exodus, going out of Egypt, because that's when the Jews went out of Egypt. Third book is called Leviticus, like Torah Kohanim in Hebrew, because it talks about sacrifices which the Levim and the Kohanim did. The fourth one is called Book of Numbers. It's called Book of Numbers. Counting, because Jews were counted a few times. In this week's parasha, we count the Jews, we count the Levim. Next parasha, they count the Levim. And then for a third time, by Parasha Pinchas, they count the Jews again. So because the Jews are counted twice the Jews and the Levim also counted, so three times all the countings. So we call it Book of Counting, Book of Numbers. But there's a problem with that. Doesn't numbers only show the external of a person? Every human being is counted one, right? You're not more than one, you're not less than one. Moshe Rabbeinu is not more than one, he's not less than one, because you're just counting the person, the external. You're not showing anything about it internal, his qualities, his virtues, nothing about that. So why would we choose a name for a book which only shows the external part of a human being? That's a question that a lot of Mefarshim ask. What's the point? Should I give us something that shows the qualities of a human being? So let's go through different way of angle looking at it. You see, what happens is, another question let's ask. As you know, when you have a question, you answer the question with a question. You all know the famous thing to ask the Jew, why do you answer the question with a question? And he said, why not? Why shouldn't I answer the question with a question? So anyways, another question that they ask is, everything in the Torah is eternal. Nothing in the Torah is for the past. Actually, there's a statement in the Megillah that it says somebody that reads the Megillah lemafreya means out of order. He's not Yotze, didn't do the mitzvah, which means if you're going to learn chapter 10 first, read chapter 10, then go to chapter 1, you didn't do the mitzvah, you have to do it in order. But Baal Shem Tov explains it different. If somebody reads the Megillah and it says Megillah is a mafreya, something that happened in the past, is not relevant today, he didn't do the mitzvah of the Megillah. You have to know whatever it's in the Torah is eternal. Now, there are many parts of the Torah that don't exist today. Like there's no Abraham anymore, there's no Moses. So all the stories, like I said, 10 plagues in Egypt, doesn't happen anymore. So how's those parts of Torah eternal? So that's where we have, the books of ethics and books of Kabbalah that explain spiritually these things continue to exist even today. Yeah, physically there is no Moshe, physically there is no Abraham, but again, concept of Abraham, which was kindness, continues up to today. So again, how do you have the mitzvah of counting today? We don't count Jews anymore. And it only happened once in the desert, 3 times in the desert. So how is that eternal? So to answer that, we're going to answer both questions. It's going to be a little bit deep. Please, guys, do pay attention. And if it's too difficult, you could ask. I don't get angry. No problem at all. You see, what happens is the Jews were in the desert for 40 years, correct? What's the simple reason that we all learn when we go to yeshiva? Why were they stuck in the desert for 40 years? God promised, I'm going to take you to the land of Israel right away. So something went wrong. What went wrong? Anybody remembers?
They weren't pure.
Right, they did a sin. What sin did they do that had to get stuck? No, not the calf. The calf, God forgave them, and he didn't tell them you're not going to go to Israel. It was another sin that they did. So the sin that they did is when Moshe was about to take the Jews to Israel, so they said, no, you want to send spies, because every country has the pitfalls and the trouble. You got to go there, see what's the easiest way to capture land of Israel. Moshe agreed. So he sent 12 spies. When the 12 spies came back, what did they say? They said there is no way that we can conquer that land. There are giants there. It's impossible. Some of them even said even God can't save us. And then when they said this report, all the Jews got afraid, and they said, you know what? God hated us that He took us out of Egypt. Halava, we wish that we should die in the desert and not to go in the land of Israel when the giants will torture us to death. So then God says, you know what? You didn't want to go to Israel. You want to die in the desert. It's going to happen to you. No land of Israel for this generation, going to die in the desert. But why 40 years? Because when the spies went to spy out the land, it took them 40 days to go and come back. So God says, you brought a bad report within the 40 days that you traveled. So for every day that you traveled, you spied, I'm going to punish you for 1 year. That's a simple reason, right? But you want to see the beauty of Kabbalah now. Kabbalah explains that wasn't the only reason. If that was the only reason, then they didn't have to be in the desert. They could have been in a country outside of Israel. But why be in the desert that's like so dangerous? So there must be another reason why God kept them in the desert for 40 years. The fact that they didn't want to go to Israel, so keep them out of Israel for 40 years, but not in the desert. So what Kabbalah explains, guys, it says that there's two forces. We got evil forces and we have forces of holiness, right? We all used to that. You have heard about it. It's in our nature and in our DNA. Anything which is connected to God, right? The Torah, the Jewish people, they're actually on the side of holiness. And then things that are evil, they're dangerous, they bring like a bunch of bad stuff. So those are on the side of evil. Now the question is, and many things could be the physical world, but the question is, where's their sustenance from? Right? Everything gets their life obviously from God. But again, from which level do they receive their life force? A person, let's say, that's very, very evil. Saddam Hussein, Hamas. Where do they get their life force from? So it's actually God gives them their life, but they get their life force from, the back, from the lowest side of godliness, from side of impurity. Now, where does the desert get its life from? So the desert is a place of impurity. Why? Nobody lives there. And the only animals that are found in the desert are animals that hurt. Right? Yeah, you got snakes, scorpions, I don't know. Not, you can't plant anything, nothing good comes out of it. So they say the desert actually is a place that you have forces of evil. And when the Jews went inside the desert, what did they do for 40 years? They built a Mishkan, which God was revealed in there, right? They did build a Mishkan. They received the Torah. It actually says that plants were growing in the desert where the Jews were. The biggest proof is when God gave the second tablets to the Jew, to Moshe. So he said, I don't want to have a big noise this time. You come up yourself. Make sure nobody's cattle is grazing in front of the mountain. But the mountain, that was a desert, was there to graze. So they proved there was actually plants growing there because there was the well of Miriam. So things were growing. So what the Jews did, they brought godliness in the desert itself. They removed forces of evil and they brought godliness. That's why they were there for 40 years. If they wouldn't have sinned with the sin of the spies, so then they would be so powerful they didn't have to be in the desert. They could have gone in Israel, and then the light of Israel would have gone all over the world. The example that Hasidic philosophy brings, imagine you have this huge fire. So that could bring heat and light to far places. But if you only have a candle, you can't light far places. You have to go to every place with a candle to bring the light. Right? It's not like a floodlight or something. So if the Jews wouldn't have sinned, they would have gone to the land of Israel and they had such great light that the whole world would have been elevated. But now that they did the sin of the spies, they became very small. So that to go through the desert, step by step, for 40 years, to clean it up from all the dirt or all the evil. Now we have a simple question. How was God so sure that the Jews would be able to do that? Maybe the desert would contaminate them. That's a question that we got. How do you know the Jews can actually transform the desert into holiness? Maybe the impurity would affect them. So this is where the concept of counting comes in. You see, guys, anybody knows a little bit of halacha? Imagine your mom is cooking a very good food for Friday night. Anybody likes gondi here? You do? I learned the food tahchin. Anybody knows what tahchin is? Yeah. I had no idea till 2 years ago in Taft. Because when I was walking in, I saw one of the kids from the Jewish club. I said, thank God, Friday night is coming. You don't have gundi. He says, Rabbi, I don't like gundi. I like thatching. So what is that? I didn't know what it was. So then we brought our chef here. He made thatching one time. It's amazing. So I tasted thatching once in my life. When I go up there after 120 years, I say, I didn't miss thatching. I miss other stuff, but not thatching at all. Anyways, how did we get here? So imagine your mom is making good food. And then suddenly the kid walks out, he wants to have a coffee, he's pouring milk, and a little bit falls into the pot of meat. So we can't cook meat and milk and meat together. What's the halacha? Can you eat that gundi Friday night, or you can't eat the gundi Friday night? So basically, go ahead. No, but again.
An accident has that's been before. And then on top of that, if the milk is less than 1/60 of the entire
He's a Kohen and he knows the halacha. That's it. Awesome. So the halacha is that if the meat is 60 times more than the milk, you try to throw the milk out as fast as you can, wherever you see the milk. But there's some which is dissolved there. But as long as the kosher food over here, the meat is 60 times more, you're allowed to eat the food. And the logic is because the Torah prohibited the taste, the mixture of meat and milk. If the meat is 60 times more, you don't feel the taste at all. But there's an exception. There are some things that even if the kosher food is 1,000 times more, the food is still forbidden. If the forbidden thing, you don't sell it by liter or by gallons, you actually sell it by numbers. Like by eggs, for example. You don't buy 1 pound of eggs, you buy it in dozens. Something which you count and you sell is very important. Things that are important, they never get nullified. So can you imagine if there's an egg, whatever, it's a non-kosher egg, and it looks exactly like a chicken egg, and it gets mixed up with a bunch of other eggs. So according to many opinions, you have to throw the whole thing out. Because things that are sold by number don't become nullified. So this is what God did. The Jews were supposed to go to the desert. We explained desert is a place of impurity. The Jews are supposed to transform that. But how do you know that the desert won't have an effect on them? That's why God counted them. When the Jews were counted, they became something important. Nothing can destroy a Jew from making the world around them into godliness. So that's exactly the concept of counting the Jews, and the concept of counting even exists today. God didn't only make those people important. He gave so much power in the neshama of every Jew that we could actually take the desert and turn it into a living place. And let's look at the desert that we live in. You have a physical desert and we have a spiritual desert. I think Los Angeles is a bunch of a big desert. I really think so. Especially with the woke education that they give us. They put doubts in your mind. If you're a boy or a girl, I'm telling you, you go to school, you come out more confused in certain areas. Thank God that we have normal parents, they educate us normal. But the ones that don't have honesty, they're in a big danger. So somebody might think, how do you expect of me to bring godliness within Los Angeles? It's such a woke place. If I want to, it's better for me to run to Florida, right? Many people run there. It's more religious. Maybe I should run to New York. Run back to Israel. Why should I stay here to make this place holy? So the Torah teaches us that every Jew has the power to transform this world into a holy place. Starting from our own homes, actually, obviously. And then when you go out, you guys, you have the power, man. Anybody in college these days? You're in college? I'm sure you see a lot of people that are not as close to Judaism as you are. So are they going to affect you? You're going to affect them. I'm sure you're going to affect them, exactly. Because God counted you, counted your soul. So you became definitely unaffected by evil. That's 100% true. You guys could look at it. I mean, you could ask your parents. When your parents came to Valley, to Los Angeles 40 years ago, I'm telling you, in the Valley, there was maybe 1 or 2 Orthodox synagogues. I'm talking about Persian ones. There was like, I don't know, it was maybe Torah Chaim was in 1987, then or Rachel was in 19. There was nothing here. Now you have a kollel, you have 10 synagogues around, you have so many kosher restaurants. The only kosher, marketplace was only Mr. Kosher and what is it called? Joe Simon's, Ventura Kosher. Now you have so many kosher places. So actually, we did come and we changed the place into godliness. You have the power. That's number one. Number two, sometimes we feel that we're a desert ourselves. Let's make an account. What do we do most of the day? We study Torah, we do business. I'm not saying we do sin, God forbid. Most of the time, we do physical things. How much of our time is dedicated to godly things? Even when we're dedicated to God, how many times our mind flies during prayer and learning? So we might give up. You know what? I'm a desert. There's no hope for me. The answer is just the opposite. That half an hour that you learn Torah, it actually brings light into your 24 hours of the day. It's not the quantity, it's the quality. Seriously, when you learn half an hour Torah every day, that brings such godliness, such power into your life that it brings blessings to the business, brings blessing to everything that you have. Those 5 minutes that you put on the tefillin changes your day. You know, when it comes to that, girls are more special. There's actually a story, you know, when it says, I tell you why. Um, what girls do sometimes, it has an effect for a whole week. I think you're getting motivated to get married.
Yeah.
Because your tefillin only affects the day, but the girls do affects the whole week. Let's bring a proof to that. You know, we have a story in the Torah. It's very actually interesting. That when Sarah, our mother, used to light candles, even though it was before the Torah was given. So now, how long did the candle burn? She lit it Friday afternoon. It burned till next Friday. When Sarah died, so then Avram started lighting candles, but his candles only burnt for a few hours. Then when Rivka came, Yitzchak, the son, got married to Rivka. So the Torah says that he brought her into her mother's tent. The mother passed away. But once he brought her to her mother's tent, he said, you know what? You're the proper wife. I'm going to marry you. What happened in the mother's tent that he decided to marry his wife? Because she started lighting candles, Rebecca, and then he burned for 7 days. The Gemara says there was one guy in times of the Gemara, when he or she lit the candles, he burned for a whole week. Now they're telling us, nonsense stories. Our candles don't burn for a whole week. If you even get the 10-inch, candles, they burn till the next morning. Nothing burns for the whole week. Why is the Torah telling us these stories? So actually, our rabbis tell us it's very true that the candles do not burn for a whole week, but the light, the godliness that they bring into the house, it has an effect in the house for the entire week, spiritually. So Abraham, Sarah, I'm saying his wife, Rivka, the guys in times of the Gemara, they were like so holy that even physically burned for a whole week. We don't have that merit, but the spirituality that the candle brings, it burns for a whole week. Do not underestimate the candles that you light. I hope you like candles. You do, right? Most of the time. It's going to be every week now. Because if you don't, it takes away a whole week's blessing. When you do, you get a blessing for a week. You guys like, I'm putting on the spot. Awesome. Some people start lighting from age of 3,
Oh, really?
as soon as they start talking. You ever seen the Chabad brochures that you get?
Yeah.
There's a lady covering the eyes and there's a little girl next to her.
Yeah.
They're both lighting candles from age of 3. Chabad lights candles. It's a good practice. Make sure your daughters do too. And then you get a good husband if you do that. Seriously. And if you guys study Torah, you get a good wife. Anyway, so remember, guys, we have the power. We could change the world. You could actually bring godliness wherever you go. And actually, God gives us the power. I'm going to just, go through a story. There was many years ago in the 70s, there was a convention of the Chabad women. So they came there, I guess, was, I don't know, during the week, and they wanted to go back home on a Thursday to be home for Shabbat. So they go to the airport, there was a big blizzard. There was a lot of snow, and all the flights were canceled. So this is late Thursday, maybe it's early Friday, I'm not sure when it was. The problem was that these ladies wanted to get home. The family was waiting for them. And they see they don't know when the next flight is. So they call the secretary of the Lubavitch Rebbe saying, please tell the Rebbe that you're in trouble. We need a blessing, that the weather should get better so we get home on time. You know what the Rebbe told them? Now we get the Israelis coming. Awesome. You look cool. I like that. I'm telling you, your wife is going to tell you you look cool too.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's what counts. Doesn't matter what I tell you. It's only what your parents and your wife. A deal? All right, good. Rabbi Eli, how are you?
How are you, Rabbi?
Baruch Hashem. I know this gentleman from El Camino Real.
I went to outdoor my last 2 years. How did I not speak?
I don't know. Maybe I was invisible then. But now we met each other afterwards.
I think it was no, even before.
Yeah, I met you at the bar mitzvah, exactly. Your bar mitzvah was here. I remember that. Anyways, guys, so going back, so this story was these people were stuck in the airport because it was snowing. So they wrote a letter to the Lubavitch Rebbe saying, please pray that the weather should change. We want to be home. So one statement that the Rebbe said, he doesn't understand what they're worried about. The Baal Shem Tov says, wherever a Jew is found, wherever any human being is found, because God wants him to be there. Why would God want you to be in a certain place? Because you have a mission to bring the message of God, to bring goodness, to bring light. I don't mean that you have to be religious with a beard. Everybody has their mission. So it says if you're stuck in the airport and there is snowing, probably God wants you to meet other Jews and bring them closer to godliness. So actually what they did, they had a bunch of pamphlets. So they stand in the airport, are you Jewish? Are you Jewish? Like the crazy things we do in TAF. Are you Jewish? Would you like to put on tefillin? And some of them actually, because they knew there's no flight, at least for another 5-6 hours, they went outside of the airport. And they said they met a lot of people. In the pamphlets, that phone numbers, they actually got connected to Chabad. They became religious a little bit afterwards. So we got stuck in the airport. These ladies got stuck in the airport. They didn't panic. I mean, they did. But the Rebbe told them, do not panic. You're there because it's not by mistake. It's not that the weather happens, you're stuck there. It's snowing because your job is to go meet Jews that are in the airport. So the reason why you guys are in Los Angeles, because there are many, many people here. And each one of you could affect somebody. You can't change the whole world, but you can change some people in the world. So let's do that. Awesome? Agreed? All right. Things that actually we see changes people. Whenever you study Torah, we don't ask people to study Torah to become religious. But the Torah has a light, has a godly light that actually changes us. This story happened with two young rabbis that lived in England. They lived in England, and one guy follows them and he says, some rabbis put on 2 pairs of tefillin, right? There's 2 pairs. So he comes and says, rabbis, did you put on your second pair of tefillin? So they said yes. So he says, me, I didn't even put on the first one. He was like trying to make fun of them. He doesn't put on tefillin at all. And he started asking a bunch of questions. I have questions to ask you. Maybe you could answer us. Now, these guys were young rabbis. So when he asked them questions, I don't have the answers. I'm sorry. I just started to go to yeshiva. But my father is so smart. Why don't you come and ask my father? So the guy agreed, wanted to challenge this rabbi. So he agrees, and he had many, many questions. So the rabbi says, listen, before I answer all your questions, why don't we just study every day an hour or half an hour, or whatever, maybe once a week. I don't know how the order was. And then when you learn Torah, you get the answers. So he sat and learned with him for 1.5 years, 2 years. The guy did not change a bit to become religious. So the entire synagogue told him, Rabbi, why are you wasting your time with him? So he wrote a letter to the Lubavitch Rebbe saying, should I stop learning with him or not? So the Rebbe told him, absolutely not. You have to continue learning. Anyways, one day, what happens is, after 3 years of learning with him, the guy comes before Pesach and he says, Rabbi, I want to sell the chametz of my house for Passover. As you guys know, we can't have any chametz in the house on Passover, leavened bread. Not only that he can't eat it, he can't even own it. It's a pasuk in the Torah that says, no chametz should be found in your house. So let's say you have a lot of chametz. What are you supposed to do? As you guys know, pizza shops, Saturday night, or let's say after Passover, how did they make so much pizza? It's impossible to make so much dough. So they make the dough before Passover, they freeze it. You're eating 8 days old dough. Just remember that. And they sell it. They sell the entire chametz for Passover. What? Nothing happened. You're still alive.
No, it's always better after it.
It is? It's like wine, the older you get.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the best time to get pizzas right after Passover.
Okay, so buy a whole pie, man. I mean, 10 pies. It's awesome. I didn't know that. So how do you guys make so much dough? So I realized they freeze it. But anyways, so this guy comes and says, you know what, Rabbi, for the first time, I want to sell my chametz. And after a few months, he made his house kosher. And the Rabbi was able to come and eat something there. But this is the power, every Jew wants to do what God wants. They love to do what God wants. And actually, when you study a little bit of Torah, that awakens the soul. Don't ask me hard questions. Go ahead.
If they freeze it, isn't it still chametz?
Yeah, but it doesn't belong to them. They sell
They
it.
sell it. And then
They sell it to a
buy
good. Yeah, they buy it back.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't belong to them. That's what they do. Anyway, so that was one thing that we learned in this week's parsha. Um, wow. Okay. Um, I'm getting a bunch of happy birthdays on my phone. It's getting flooded.
You're famous.
Famous in what? I don't know. You know what? It's because I always call everybody and say happy birthday to them. Do people call me now? Baruch Hashem for that. Any questions before we go to the next part? Everything is good? All right.
Question.
Go ahead.
So you said they sell the chametz and then they buy it back.
They sell the chametz to a goy. They say put on a down payment, and then after Passover, bring the rest of the money. So now they don't go sell it to the goy straight. They sell it to a rabbi. The rabbi sells, millions of dollars of goods to one goy.
So you're allowed to do that? It's like a loophole, huh?
It's a real sale. And then the goy comes and he has a choice to buy it. So he says, you want to pay the rest? He says, I don't have the money.
You're gonna buy it back anyway.
It's allowed. Don't ask me why, how, I don't know. People also that have gas stations, what do? You can't work on Shabbat. You can't have your worker work for you either. So what do? They sell the business of Shabbat to the goy, they buy it back on Sunday.
Really?
Yeah, it's contract. They don't do it every week. It's a contract. So you could have it. You could grocery stores usually they close. The kosher stores are closed. But gas stations, by law, you cannot close.
Kosher grocery store, like a Ralph's.
If he has that, and if he's the owner, he could close it. Gas stations, you can't close. They're going to shut you down.
I know you're not allowed to own kosher restaurants.
Right.
So can you own like a Ralph's or like a Smart?
I doubt it. I don't think so. What's happening over there? He's not El Camino today.
Sorry,
You're out of high school, like.
you spent some rap, it's like randomly. It's
Okay, no problem. Just wanted to, share something with you about, Shavuot. I want to tell you a story. The story actually is a very sad story, but it's a very, very powerful story. It was about a man. His name was Avraham ben Avraham. He was a person, please guys, let's stop the laughing. Okay. Avraham ben Avraham was actually a convert. And he was burnt on Shavuot. What was the story? When the Jews lived in Europe, in Vilna. So there was a guy that his name was Count Potocki, I think his last name. And at that time, the Jews were actually tortured a lot. They disrespected the Jews. And there was a law that if a Jew passed by a church, he had to pick up his hat as respect. So there was one time a father and a daughter passing by the church, and they didn't realize that he has to take off his hat. He didn't take it off. So the students in the church saw what's happening. They came and they started beating him up and beating the girl. Good excuse to beat them up. So this Count Potocki had a son, I don't know what his name was, that he saw what's happening. So right away he walked out and he stopped the guys beating up the man and the Jewish girl because he was a son of the Count, so they were scared to attack him. But later they went to the father of the church and they complained. These Jews were disrespectful, so we beat them up. What right does this kid have to come and stop us? So now the father was a Count. What is he supposed to do? So he tells his son, because you're my son, you're going to get away with it easier. But because you're not such a good Christian boy, I'm going to send you out of town. You're going to go to another town, to a church that make you a better Christian. You're not going to defend the Jews anymore. So they send him to a different town. He goes to a different town. He was learning, in church. He was a very good student. One of the days that he was walking, he sees this old rabbi sitting with his son and teaching the son something. So he was very curious. And he said, sir, what are you teaching here? So he says, I'm teaching the Bible. It was Hebrew language. So he gets interested in learning Hebrew and the Torah. So after a while, he was a very genius guy, very smart guy. He learns the Torah, he learns Hebrew, he learns Torah. And then after a while, he was so interested to become a Jew that he tells this rabbi, I want to convert. Can you please convert me? They couldn't. Because in that country, if a Christian would become a Jew, he would be like a renegade, whatever the word is. I don't know what the word it is, like infidel. They would actually burn him. So it says here, I can't do it. But if you want, I could send, I think in Holland or somewhere, one of the countries in Europe, you're allowed to become a Jew. I'll send you the convert over there. So he goes. So imagine, after a while, this kid is not found anymore. The father sent him to a church to become a better Christian. Now he's lost. So they sent police all over to find him. They don't find him. What happens to this Mr. Potatsky? So he goes to one of these synagogues and he becomes a Jew and he keeps it as a secret. And now he had a beard. He didn't look like a regular Christian anymore. They couldn't recognize him. After a while, he actually misses his own country, city, Vilna. And he tells the rabbi that converted him, please let me go back. I want to go back to Vilna. He says it's dangerous because if they find out that you converted to Judaism, they're going to burn you alive. He says, you know what, don't worry about it. Nobody knows me. I have a beard now. Nobody can know the difference. I'll go there. I find a Jewish wife. Nobody's going to find out that I'm a convert. So he goes back there. Guess who does he get married to? To that girl that was beaten up and he saved. He gets married to that girl and he was always in the synagogue learning and studying. So one day there was one kid that was running in the synagogue making a lot of noise. Now you guys do know people that were not born religious, they are more dedicated to Judaism sometimes than kids that are born religious. You have seen when people become religious, they go to a synagogue. How come you guys talk so much during prayers? He doesn't say a word. After 6 months being in the synagogue, he also starts talking because he really became religious. Definitely people that convert to Judaism, honestly, some of them are more hot about Judaism than a Jew. I had one time an experience, there was a Japanese girl that wanted to marry a Jewish guy. So, I mean, this was real case. The Japanese parents disowned her. And then the mother of this Persian guy was a Persian guy, was also very upset. Anyways, so she did a conversion. So the day that she went to the mikvah, she called me up. And he says, Rabbi, I feel so good. I'm so proud. Wow. It feels so good to feel like a Jew. So I said to myself, I wish I would feel like her, you know. It's amazing. She was, till now, she was a non-Jew, was a Christian, whatever she was. She goes to the mikveh, she comes out, she has that great feeling. She feels so proud that she's Jewish. I was really embarrassed. I was honest. Wow. I wish I would feel like that all the time. Anyways, so this boy actually was in the synagogue and he sees this guy, convert, and he sees this kid running around making noise. So being a convert, he wasn't used to kids running around. And he screams at him, says, you kid, where's your respect for the synagogue? Get out of here. And we're going to go to a joke a little bit. You know, there was one time a priest, it's not a joke, it's a true story. A priest stops a rabbi and he says, Rabbi, I have a complaint about your religion. Please, everybody's Jewish here, right? Anyways, and even somebody's not, it's only a joke. So it's a true story, but it's a joke. Don't take it to heart. So he says, Rabbi, I have complaints about Judaism. I think our religion, Christianity, is better than Judaism for 3 reasons. Reason number 1, when we go to your synagogues, people are screaming. You know, they scream, Hashamnu, Bagadnu, whatever it is. What's the screaming? You come to our churches, we sit quietly, nobody screams. We pray normal. Number 2, in your synagogues, kids run around back and forth. For us in the church, we sit properly normal. And then he says, number 3, when we go to your funerals, have you ever seen, especially old Persians, they pull the hair out, they rip their clothes. By us, we are civilized. We take a few flowers, we put it and we walk out. Nobody does this crazy stuff that you do. So the rabbi says, you know what? I have an answer for everything. The reason why scream in our synagogue, because our God is very old. So he's hard of hearing. We have to scream for him to hear. It says, your God, whatever, Jesus, whatever his name is, you know, he's very young. So you don't have to scream. That's reason number 1. It says number 2, when you feel at home, you do whatever you like to do. When you go to a strange place, then you behave. Have you ever seen kids that are terror? But when they go to a place, they don't recognize anybody, they behave. It says we feel that the synagogue, God's place, is our home. So we run around, we're used to God, we do whatever we want. When we go to the streets, we don't feel at home. Our home is God's house. So because of that, we behave. But you guys is the opposite. In the streets, you don't behave because you feel at home. When we come to God's house in the church, you don't know God that much, you know, so you behave. And regarding your funerals, your funerals are a lot nicer than ours. May God bless you to have many more. So that was just, to get him back in the marketplace. It's just a joke. We don't want anybody to, it was just, confrontation. It was making fun of Judaism, so this rabbi answered him. His name was Rabbi Yonatan Eibschitz. He lived in Europe. Please do not say this publicly, it's in here, but It's just a joke. So, anyways, going back to our story, we got to finish in 2 minutes. Going back to our story with this convert, he was so upset at the kid that he kicked him out of the synagogue. So the kid went and cried to his father. So the father came and he said, "You, by the way, his name, when he became a Jew, he named himself Abraham. But you can't call him Abraham, son of George, because his father was not Jewish. Anybody that converts, he's called to be son of Abraham. Doesn't matter who the person is, because Abraham was the father of everyone. Ishmael came, not only Jews came, everybody came from Abraham. Anyways, so then he says, "You, Abraham, you think I don't know who you are? We all know you are that convert. How dare you scream at my kid? I'm going to tell the authorities that you're the convert, and they're going to kill you." And he did it. It's crazy, but he did it against another Jew. So, anyways, the authorities come, they catch him, and it was on the holiday of Shavuot. Every Shavuot, we say his story for his neshama. They actually take him to burn him alive. So then the priest comes and says, "Abraham," whatever his name was in English, "you know what? If you repent and become a Christian again, we're going to save you." Well, what are you thinking? That you're going to go up there, you're going to take revenge from us? So this guy was such a holy person. He says, "No, I'm not worried about taking revenge." One of the examples that the storytellers bring, imagine you were 3 years old and your friend comes and steals your toy soldiers from you. When you turn 20, you're going to take revenge from him? Oh, when you were 3, you stole something from me. Of course not, because they were kids. He wasn't mature. So he said, when I go to Gan Eden, I'm in such a high level because I was killed on the Kiddush Hashem, sanctifying God's name, that I don't even think about you guys. I'm going to think of revenge. Anyways, they burned him alive. Before they burnt him, the Vilna Gaon, Rabbi Yomi Vilna, bribed the guards, and he went inside the jail to talk to him. So this man said, "Rabbi, I'm not worried about anything. I'm just worried that I don't have any children." So then he told him that, it says that people that don't have, I don't know exactly what the pasuk means, but it says when the Beit HaMikdash will be built, people that don't have any kids, their names are going to be on the walls of the temple eternally. I really don't know what it means. But it says even though you don't have kids, but your name is going to be eternal. They burnt him on Shavuot, and actually later on, Jews dressed like Christians, and they went and they scraped his ashes to take it to a cemetery. So this was the story, the famous story of Abraham, son of Abraham. And we say David Shavuot. Shavuot actually is I think next Tuesday. So I think we're going to stop here. Just a couple announcements, people. And that is, this Thursday is Erev Rosh Chodesh. It's the day before Rosh Chodesh Sivan. Is a special prayer. Please, guys, Google it. It's called the prayer of Shalah HaKadosh, Shela, the Holy Shalah. That's for the parents. They pray for the kids that they should be healthy. They should be healthy everywhere, physically, emotionally. It's a special prayer that the parents pray for the kids, that they should find their soulmates very easily, healthy soulmates, healthy children being born. It's a very special, important prayer. Again, you guys are not parents yet, but please Google it and give it to your parents to pray for you. The reason why it's very effective, because next month, which is month of Sivan, the coming month, that's when God gave us the Torah. So it's the most special time to pray for our kids. And also, please do not forget, next Wednesday is Shavuot. Please make sure that you go to the synagogue, you hear the 10 Commandments. Every synagogue gives some cheesecake or whatever it is. Shavuot without cheesecake is not Shavuot.
Correct.
So please make sure that, or ice cream. What?
That's it, correct.
Correct, I know.
Yes.
So we're going to get 2 sheets, 2 full sheets. So if you guys want to come, please come and enjoy it.